What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Manifesting Your Desires. It is Antonio checking in. And today I want to talk about silence, even though I'm clearly talking. But I remember when I stayed with my great grandmother, I learned a lot from her. Matter of fact, I keep her while I'm driving, here she go right here. She always wore all white. Man, I learned a lot from that woman. And I will always notice, like, every day, she had a period of the day where she would just go sit in her rocking chair, open the front door, and just sit there. She'd have her little orange juice, a little water. She would just sit in silence. And she would just sit there for hours and hours and hours, just silence. And I always wonder, she was like, I'm meditating. But, it wasn't like the traditional meditating, like how we think meditating is like that. But she was just always like, Tony, I'm meditating. And I just learned a lot from watching her. And I noticed, like, sitting in silence, everything seemed to just flow to her. Granted, she was older, so I think everybody, once they get older, you just adopt this carefree life where it's like, I don't care what happened at this point. But it seemed like things would just go her way. It seemed like it was no stress. She just was like, hey, I remember living with my great grandma at times where, shoot, man, it wasn't like we were just crazy poor, but growing up in the hood, sometimes you didn't have no food. But she was just like, let's be still and watch. And every time we would just be still, somebody would come through with some money, somebody would come through with some type of food. It was weird. So just growing up, I was naturally like a quiet individual. But, staying with my great grandma, it allowed me to go deeper in myself, because while I was staying with my great grandmother, I had like a sense of freedom. I had like a lot of time to myself. And honestly, my great grandmother house basement is when I really was developing my spiritual awakening, or when I was coming into, it's even when I started growing my dreadlocks. So a lot of spiritual things happened to me while I was living with my great grandmother. She was a real spiritual woman. Like, people would come to her for prayers, and like, she would pray for people. They would get like whatever they come to her for. Like, they wanted to come to her for a job, people would literally come and she would pray for them in a certain manner. They would get a job. They would come to her for, like, they would even come sometimes with lottery numbers and like for money, and she would pray for them and they would hit the lottery, and money would come to them in all kind of ways. Like, so she had a tag where she would go by called the Miracle Woman. And my great grandma, she really had a lot of spiritual powers, but I don't know if a lot of that came from just sitting in silence. But I think a lot of times with us as humans, our minds is just full of chatter, just chit chatter. We always want to hear the music, hear the TV. I always want to be talking or hearing on social media. But I think a lot of us are afraid to sit alone, to hear our thoughts. But just because you have certain thoughts, that don't mean that you're that type of person. I just personally developed the cultivation of being able to sit in silence. One, naturally, because I'm a pretty reserved, quiet type person. These videos are probably the most talkative I've been. But, of course, I know how to socialize. I ain't just like the awkward guy in the room when it comes to socializing. That's definitely not me. But just overall, I'm pretty reserved, pretty quiet type individual. And for the longest, I used to always think something was wrong with that. But then I started realizing the inner peace, the tranquility that I would get from just being in peace. Like, a lot of times when I sit in the car, I ride around with no music, no nothing, just roll the window down, let the world play its tunes. You feel me? Like, listen to the chaos of the world. And walking through my nature paths, I just keep quiet in that silence. It's almost like a relief, It's like you become centered, you become aligned just by being silent. And I have been meditating for years and years. And I first started off meditating with, just pure silence, just closing my eyes. Then, of course, I graduated to like guided meditation, music in my meditation. But at the end of the day, nothing is like just being in silence. And I think that is something that a lot of more people should experience, because a lot of people think that because you're alone or because you're in silence that you're lonely or that you're in your thoughts. No, but a lot of times a person just really at peace. You're so at peace that you don't have to move. You're so at peace that you don't have to talk. We adults. If we don't have nothing to say, we just don't have nothing to say. Don't force yourself to say something. That's my DoorDash order, y'all. I'll be out here DoorDash, and I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, but yeah, man, embrace the silence. Let me go get this moolah. Y'all already know, stay up, stay down. Peace out.